Underwriting deals is such a major pain point for people. Most don't want to do it, and the people that are good at it are few and far between. That is why after 6 years of being in the industry and buying over 1,200 apartments, using my best-selling multifamily deal analyzer, I created Real Estate Lab, a full suite acquisition software for multifamily investors. We have built a product that helps investors automate their acquisitions and close more deals, all in a cloud-based platform. You can go to realestatelab.com and sign up today using the promo code TAG2 for 10% off your first 12 months. This is David Tupin. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to The Apartment Gurus, where twice a week, host Tate Siemer brings you deep dive interviews with the wisest gurus in the apartment investing industry. These experts are sure to create game-changing value and inspiration designed to catapult your business to the next level. Be sure to reach out to Tate at www.investwithgreenlight.com for access to his investor portal and Calendly link. And now, here is Tate Siemer and the Apartment Gurus.
Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Apartment Gurus podcast, formerly the Apartment Guys podcast. And I'm flying solo today as the host, rather. And I'm so glad to be welcoming back a very special guest, Mr. George Roberts. And George, this is your second time on the show, and you provide such a valuable perspective on things. And we know each other from national conferences that we've both been to, and just shout out to national conferences in general. This big stuff happens at these things, and alliances get formed, partnerships get formed, and this is definitely the case with George. So George, welcome back to the show, man. I'm really stoked to have you on.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Tate. It's been a while. We were just looking up just when that last episode was recorded, and it looked like I was just beginning to work on my second deal.
Yeah. And a lot's happened since then, I know, for you guys. And just to bring the listeners up to speed, George is oh, geez. I just had your bio in front of me, George. Here, George, tell us a little bit about your company, and just a little background on your company. Here we go. I've got it right in front of me here. You've been a real estate investor over a decade. Have a lot of experience in this space, I'm super stoked to be talking to you, and kind of tell us a little bit about Horizon Multifamily.
Yeah, Horizon Multifamily. We started a few years back. Now, the last time I saw you in person was at the most recent Dealmaker in 2022.
Yep.
And it was a few years back at the first Dealmaker. That's where most of us had all met. I was the last one to join in early 2020, I believe it was. Wow, time flies. And so since then, I'll just give you a quick rundown in case you haven't listened to the first episode. So we got our first deal in Orlando. That was a joint venture. And then we did our first syndication that was still rolling. Last time we were together in this venue. And from there, that first syndication is going just wonderfully. Did a co-GP opportunity, working on another co-GP opportunity, and a second joint venture since that time.
Wow. You guys have been busy. Your whole team is great. Got to meet, I think, 4 of you guys, Paul and Steve, and teamwork makes the dream work in this space, as we often say, and you guys seem to be doing real well, and one of the things I like about you guys, all 4 of you, is you have fun, and it, maybe I've got the wrong impression, but you all seem to really like each other.
You got the right impression. Yes, okay. We like to have fun. Yeah, a couple of us are together now in Tennessee working on that first syndication today, and I'm sure there will be stories to tell.
Yeah.
Whiskey bottles opened and stories to tell.
Yeah, I can't wait. Let's tell us a little bit about that deal. Let's start there.
Sure.
Yeah. What kind of asset is it, and size and all that stuff?
Great. So this is a 34 unit multifamily. Got in at a purchase price of about 2.2 million, and it's a total mom and pop deal. Just like I like to say, it's in the land of mom and pop. That's where Jake and Gino got their start in East Tennessee, and it was just an amazing deal. Tom Kirkpatrick is the one who lined it up. He'd been talking to the property manager / handyman for about 5 years, and on and off, and just gave a couple calls out. And that second call he sent out, it was a no, but he got an incoming call a couple weeks later, said, yeah, we're ready to deal. Well, it was a completely undermanaged asset. Rents we were able to raise them immediately about $250. To put that in perspective, we were starting out at around $625, $675. So that represented over a 1/3 increase in rents. Mm-hmm. We did some renovations, pushed things further, got a dog park going. And we're talking about doing some more things for the residents right now. We might have some outdoor picnic area, but it's just one of those picture perfect deals. If you're willing to take the time to play the long game and get to know people, a lot of times you can find these sort of mom and pop deals with a whole lot of meat on the bone.
Yeah. And, great takeaway here. And this is the second time in the last couple weeks that this has come up, but property managers can be amazing sources for finding deals off market, no competition. And I would say, especially in, in the kind of mid-size unit count, that a lot of bigger, fish aren't going after, like, the big brokers and the big institutional equity and all that stuff. Like you said, there can be lots of meat on the bone there, and they can be nice deals, like base hits, right? That's what scores runs is base hits. And so, cool. So, and I'm sorry, where did you say the deal is?
So this is Jefferson City, Tennessee. It's about 30 minutes east of Knoxville.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Great area, growing fast. Yes. Tennessee is blowing up, and Knoxville in particular is blowing up.
Yes.
So this will be this is an out-of-state situation for you guys. I believe you're in Michigan. Is that
yeah?
Correct?
So two of us are in Michigan, Paul or Pav. We're both in Michigan. It's funny, his brother's in Michigan right now. He's moving out permanently and probably to Orlando for a bit longer, and then maybe back to East Tennessee. So yeah. But we do have Tom Kirkpatrick. He was the boots on the ground for that deal.
Okay.
And so that's one of the reasons why we love East Tennessee. I mean, I can get down there maybe 8.5 hours. Tom's already there. And anything along that I-75 corridor in between, say like Cincy to East Tennessee, looks really good to me. It's accessible, got the partners, the boots on the ground. It's growing. And a lot, you see Nashville's grown like crazy, right? Yeah. That's your central Tennessee. But Knoxville, you want to go someplace that is like Nashville was a few years back. And so that could be Knoxville.
Yeah, totally. And probably is Knoxville, like based on what I know about that market. And, super important point here is, I'm actually giving a presentation coming up on managing out-of-state properties. And of course, when I say manage, I don't mean that we're the property managers. I mean, we're the asset managers. We're basically managing the property manager from a high level as owner operators. And, there's nuances to that. There's an art to that. And what we found is that boots on the ground partner, having that boots on the ground partner is absolutely essential, not only to you and the success of your business plan, but your investors want to know where the rubber's meeting the road, right? Like who's taking care of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're syndicating this deal. And so tell us a little bit about that. I'm sure you guys got a loan on it. Or are you syndicating the whole thing?
So funny thing, we got seller financing 3.5%.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's amazing. So it's hard to let go, but we probably do have to refinance at some point because, that's it just makes sense. I mean, that pumps the IRR. And in the end, that really is your rate of return. There are many rates of return. I feel like this is the most straightforward, maybe not mathematically, but once you understand it, the IRR is telling you hey, if you can reinvest at that rate, that's the rate you're getting, right? You still have reinvestment risk. So if we pump out 24 or 28% IRR here, well, I hope the investors can invest at that rate, and then the overall return will be 24 to 28%.
Yeah. That's amazing. Seller, I mean, subject to seller financing to get the deal done. Just another benefit of going direct to seller and dealing directly with the seller, and having the ability to negotiate something like that. That's tremendous.
So if you don't mind, I'll give you a little tip. I mean, one of the ways you can figure out that something really is, like the only way you could get access to this property, literally the only way you can rent it, you'd have to drive by, and next to the pool on the shed, there was a number. So that's how we got access to that deal, called that number, and that's how we made the contact.
Wow.
So it's under management of properties.
Yeah.
No website. They weren't updating, as far as I know. I don't think we're updating apartments.com or anything else.
Yeah.
So the harder it is to find, potentially the greater the reward.
Yeah, it's in the analogy there is you're willing to fish upstream from where everybody else is fishing, and do the work that no one else is doing.
Yeah.
I mean that there's lots of signs of distress that you can look for in properties.
Right.
And if signage is one of those, like, if signage is old, not updated, faded, handwritten, like, the Home Depot signs with a phone number on them, that sort of thing. Like, I mean, those are all signs of mom and pop operators that likely haven't kept up with the market as far as their rents go. And, very well may be looking for a top of the market scenario to liquidate their asset and get out. So, my feeling, George, is that we're going to be seeing more and more of these sorts of opportunities as we go into, whatever we're going into here. And, we're recording this as of now, it's August 8th of 2022. And the market has sharply shifted, since, in the last 4 or 5 months, especially in terms of debt and equity, which is causing, a shift in asset values. And we seem to have hit a downturn in those, just to be real. And so you have to start thinking strategically and looking strategically at, how can we capitalize on what's going on now, and who can we help? Most importantly, what problems can we solve? Because that's where, people buy and sell properties all day, every day in any market, and people are making money in any market. So our job is to figure out, number one, know the nuances of what's going on like the back of our hand. And you do that by living, eating, breathing this stuff. And then, knowing how to strategically go about your business, right? Like, I don't know about you, George, but nobody around here wants to put their pencil down right now. And at least I don't. And my guess is that are you kind of feeling the same way? Or, I mean, are you guys slowing down in your thinking or your operations at all?
Tate, this morning, it's funny. That's exactly what I thought perhaps we should be doing. A little bit of slowing down, a little bit of retrenchment, but we have one property, as I mentioned, not under contract. Sorry, we're still in the LOI stage for that. Hope to get it under contract very, very soon. Purchase and sale agreement. But we are pretty much charging forward. I mean, but again, it's all a matter of where you're looking. So you've gotten into the big game, right? I see those high rises behind you. You're buying some big stuff. And for us, we did not get into the big game before things got a little rougher. So for me, what makes sense right now is, as an operator myself, to continue to look for these mom and pop deals, these smaller ones, because again, if you buy something at undervalue and values decline, you've got a significant margin of safety. It's not likely that you're going to buy a 100 unit or a 200 unit significantly under market. Now, you may have a motivated seller and you may have an opportunity from time to time, but the likelihood and the margin of safety, I think, tends to be a lot stronger when you're looking at the smaller properties.
Yeah.
So for us, that's what made sense, is to continue doing what we know how to do. And then hopefully when things shake out a little bit, then we hope to move up into the larger game. So a few things I've noticed is these big operators, they're using more and more co-GPs. It's, as you mentioned, tighter on the equity side.
Yeah.
And then when you're trying to do the debt financing too, I can see a little retrenchment there as well. I think that the banks, et cetera, everybody, agencies, they're all being a little bit more careful. And that makes sense. If you don't have that sixth sense for when the economy is turning, and if you aren't able to get a little less greedy before things really go south, then you don't belong in the lending business. So it is getting tougher. But one thing that I'd like to say to people that are kind of newer, I find a lot of people coming to me and asking, like, how do I get into a big deal? Like, how can I co-GP? Like, I would say just ask. Nowadays, you have so many deals that are either going sideways or they're going slower than usual. It's much bigger slog to get that capital. Just reach out to people around you, the people that you respect, the people you consider a mentor, and just ask. Because I have never seen so many people just flooding my inbox. It's like, hey, do you know people who can raise capital for this? I say, hey, I'll talk to my people. I'm maxed out right now. I've got a co-GP and a JV deal going right now. I'm not raising capital for anything outside of that.
Yeah. I mean, that's so well said. And it really, this kind of highlights for me, like, David Tupin, who's a friend of the show and from Michigan, by the way, he is all about like doing the things that it takes to increase your balance sheet, and grow your balance sheet. And you can do that in 150 unit deals, or you can do it in 50 unit deals. You can do it in 25 unit deals. We used to be all about unit count. We kind of, to be honest, we still are. Like we're definitely in a space where, we're kind of in the space where the bigger the deal is, in some ways, the easier it is to get done because we're dealing with institutional equity. However, these small deals, as George calls them, the mom and pop deals, with, self-management, there's lots and lots of those properties out there. And it's, there's lots of ways of going direct to seller. Greenlight, we've put all our eggs in the broker basket. And we tried direct to seller for about a year. And for us, we just, various reasons, we just didn't have a lot of luck with it. But there's lots of ways of doing that and skinning that cat, so to speak. And look, there's if you get our first deal was a 15 unit and then a 20 unit, and then we jumped into 192 units from there, and actually had another deal that we were closing simultaneously at 70 units. And that worked for us. That was the trajectory that we took. And the first deal was $2 million, and you cut your teeth on those, and you learn some of the hard lessons, right? And there can be a lot less of those if you're well mentored and well coached, but nonetheless, this just highlights. I just want to point out the opportunity for listeners. And I don't talk about it a whole lot, but this smaller unit count asset class is for real, and there's a lot of money to be made there.
Well, one other thing, if you don't mind, is
please,
as the lending scene gets a little more difficult, maybe a little tighter, and certainly higher in rates, it's nice if you got to do renovation to not have to get a bridge or a construction loan. And one of the nice things about the seller financing is you're not going to have all these covenants, right? You don't have to keep occupancy at a certain level. It just, in many ways, it's a safer loan.
Yeah. What? Tell us about that loan. What are the terms on it? Yeah, do you have a balloon, and what's that?
Right. Yeah. So as I remember, it's 3.5% 1 year IO We're still within that as we record this, just about 1 year from the prior episode. We've got a few months left. Then we've got 5-year, 7-year, I think, balloon. So we can keep this thing for quite a while. Like if the economy really hit the fan tomorrow and it just didn't make sense for whatever reason to refinance or add any additional debt, we got it. We're good.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, like, that's what matters, right? That you guys have the ability to ride this out, whatever this is, and however this looks over the next little bit. And the reason you do is because you have a fixed rate note on your loan. And
right.
And by the way, it's a very, very low interest rate. Congratulations. I mean,
yeah.
on
well,
all
and the
that.
other thing is then you don't have the issue of like the step down, and we probably do, like maybe the first 2 years is probably like a 2-1 or something like that. But when you get those agency loans, you got to choose between how long do you want to have a fixed rate.
Yeah.
And then during that fixed rate, you're going to have the issue of prepayment penalty.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of name your poison. And then
Yeah.
when you get in that variable rate, right, what do you want to go buy a rate lock? That can be expensive. And, it's still just putting a ceiling, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot that can go wrong and it's expensive. So yeah, I'm loving the game we're playing for a little while. Like I said, hopefully when I think things are a little bit more stable, look forward to getting into that bigger game like you, Tate.
Well, yeah, I mean, and we're all doing the best we can in this space. And I know the listeners are all, doing the best they can with where they are and what they've got. And like I certainly don't have a magic wand, and you just never know how things are going to work out, and ideally they'll work out great. But these, again, like what you guys are doing is so risk mitigated here, for so many different reasons. And, again, kudos to you guys. I mean, you mentioned agency loans and bridge loans, that they would be twice as expensive as what you guys got at this point in time.
Right. Yeah. Environmental studies. We got a phase 1. We chose to do that. But yes, there's a lot of other things you need to do, including an appraisal. Now, look, if you know that you are getting it at a discount, you don't really need that appraisal. Right. But your bank is always going to order that.
Yep, for sure. And should, right? So
yes. Yeah.
So who was the point of contact with your seller on this deal? Was it Tom?
Yeah, it was Tom. So he was the real deal maker on this. So yeah, hats off to him. Hopefully we find a few more deals like this. He's found another deal like this for himself. And hopefully we've got a good long ride on this. Yeah.
That's a great model.
Yeah.
So shifting gears a little bit, you're the host of the Foundry podcast. What's the Foundry? What's the tagline on it?
Okay,
I know it's something special.
It's called the Foundry, where leaders are forged daily.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking
so
for.
The idea that entrepreneurship is one of the great proving grounds for leadership talent, and I felt like I truly blossomed as an entrepreneur. I mean, I didn't have to ask anybody. We were going to do this from a campground, but I didn't get out of the house early enough. So between this and between the podcast I'm going to record as host later today, I'm going to head out to our campground. So yeah, I didn't have to ask anybody. I make my own schedule. I make my own meetings, and it's just beautiful. It's been wonderful personally, and it's also been extraordinary growth. Yeah.
And you speak with passion to your love of being an entrepreneur. And, you mentioned freedom, time freedom, geographic freedom to be, with your family, at the campground and everything else. And, like I'm going to Mexico for the month of November, and I'll be working my tail off down there remotely. But if I hadn't, taken the steps that I've taken in my career and been fortunate enough to be surrounded with great partners and had some good luck along the way, like that may or may not be happening, but like, that's the kind of thing that I think we're all going for. And I love that your podcast is about leadership in particular, because leadership's required in entrepreneurialism in general. And as an entrepreneur, you need to really be a leader in your space. And whether that's thought leadership, like George with his podcast, or us with our podcast, leaders in the industry, coaching, mentoring, speaking, authoring books. Those are all ways of contribution that can be made. And to me, entrepreneurialism really gets fun when you're able to empower others and bring others along for the ride, so to speak, and inspire others to be the best versions of themselves. So kudos to you on continuing the show. How many episodes you up to at this point?
Well, I want to say that it was episode 76 that was just produced.
That's tremendous.
And should go out. Actually, it should be going out today. That's a nice thing about having a virtual assistant.
Yeah.
It's going to go out today, regardless of the fact that I'm thinking about camping and taking care of my son. So, yeah, I believe it's 76. If I'm not mistaken, this will be Philippe Schuligan. And yeah. And I think I probably recorded maybe up to at least 79 or maybe beyond into the 80s. So yeah, it's really exciting to get it to the point where I got a VA doing most of the tasks. I get to focus on being a host. And I guess I can just spill this because I don't think you're going to, you're certainly not going to publish this episode today, but plan things, right? I can just focus on being a host. And later on, I'm going to interview Amy Silvis. And what I want to do is have inflationary prices right. So I want to go back to 1964, and we're going to talk about the price of chicken and Miracle Whip, the price in 1980, the price currently, price of Coca-Cola, and just really look, just what is this inflation monster and how bad is it?
Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
So I get to plan things like that rather than having to do all of the editing and all of the image work. So yeah, it's great once you professionalize the podcast. Should have done that a lot sooner.
Yeah. I mean, it's the best thing that I ever did with this podcast was hire a great team to do everything after the recording's done. It makes it so that I can host this podcast and also do a high level of business in the meantime. And my partners are, a big reason why I can do that as well. But again, I love your passion for this. I mean, you can tell when I talk to you and share space with you in person that, you love what you do and not only for what it does for you, but hopefully you just love the work, right? Like, for me, I love the activity set and the skill set it takes and the people, like, getting to hang out with George Roberts, like, and his team, like, these relationships are really fun. They're often very fruitful, and we say it all the time. This is a relational business. It's a long game. George, when did we meet again? It's been a couple of years, right? Dealmaker.
Well, I want to say in person. Was it at Dealmaker? Because I know we've met online for quite some time. Yeah. But yeah, that freedom of association. I just want to say right back at you, Tate. Great to meet people like you and Chelsea. And it's a very different flavor of life and a very different flavor of leadership too, right? This is, I would say, leadership with a double helping of risk, appetite for risk, and visionary. You need to be very much more the visionary to be the leader outside of a corporation. So I think a lot of people that might be frustrated in their corporation and maybe don't like your coworkers so much, definitely give entrepreneurship a try. Get that side hustle going. And the people you meet, they are just truly amazing. People who are ready to go out there and chart their own course. Some people say it's the 97% of us end up working for the 3% that never quit. So find out what it's like to be that 3% and really enjoy that passion. It's just amazing.
Yeah, totally. And, in general, there's, people kind of fall into one of two categories. There's an employee mentality and there's an owner mentality. And look, there's nothing wrong with either one. And inherently I guess there's nothing right with either one. It's just kind of how we're wired. Right. And as on the entrepreneurial side, that's the ownership side, right? Like the Kiyosaki model of owning a business and owning assets that pay you. That's the journey. And so it's a wonderful thing and chances are, if you're listening to this, that you're wired a lot like George and I are, and you really seek that time freedom, that freedom of association that George just mentioned. That's the payoffs. And George and I are both working on deals. We've got a lot going on, and sometimes it gets stressful, but you can, if you can keep the love for it alive, and I think the best way that I think of to do that is to know your superpowers and really work those, double down on what you do well, spend most of your time in what you do well, because you're going to be happier. You're going to have more jobs. You're going to have more satisfaction with what you're doing, and leverage the rest. I mean, George talked about leveraging, not self-producing his podcast anymore and having a VA. Like, those are points of leverage that provide George freedom. So that's good stuff. Good takeaways here. So what's next for you guys? You mentioned,
so I guess just to bring
up.
you up to speed about the other deals. So yeah, I did do a co-GP that was huge. It's funny, that actually closed before the deal. Like when you work on a syndication, it's a long story from start to finish. So that third deal actually ended up becoming my second deal. And then again, from there, just really focusing on, increasing the units, managing the assets, getting the most, and just trying to branch out too. So I focus for my own business on what I would call straight down the middle multifamily, value add opportunities. And so one of the things I'm going to try to do this year is try to learn some new things. So I got into a hotel to multi conversion with a really experienced operator. And so then what I found in my life is, if you're going to do a co-GP opportunity, do it on something you haven't done before. Do it with somebody who can teach you something. So I got that rolling now. And then later on, I want to do a build to rent. So I'm not going to just do something completely nuts and go off in a completely different direction. I'm going to go and work with somebody first, be the understudy. And then, at that point, I can decide, hey, do I want to branch out in this and make this my own thing? Yeah. So, a lot of opportunities out there. I would say really right for the taking.
Totally. Build to rent is a huge space that is emerging, or has been emerging for a little while now. And that's that's a very real lane. I love what you're doing with these new lanes. Generally, I'm a proponent of picking a lane, mastering it, and really doubling down on that. But you're doing this the right way, in that you're almost like an apprentice in a certain sense, in that the deal's not on you. It's on somebody that's very experienced, and that's going to make sure that things go well, and you're going to learn from that. And in doing that, you're going to get kind of almost a intuition or a gut feeling about, like, yeah, this is where I want to be, and this is awesome. It's lighting me up. Or, maybe it doesn't feel that way, and at that point. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And just learning about like the buy box and all the things you really need to do to make these deals work, right? I mean, with a hotel to multi, if you got to knock down walls, it's going to get twice as expensive. Yeah. So starting like bigger rooms, finding an area where you have a population that likes smaller rooms, and finding the places that have kitchenettes if you already got an extended stay, etc. I mean, there's got to be at least a dozen key tricks to making these things work. And I'm getting to see all of them firsthand, getting to see all the rules. Like, these are the deals we pursue and why.
Yeah, got it. It's great. It's a great way to learn the space, and it kind of reminds me of a general strategy of just if you're brand new to the multifamily space in general, figure out a way to get in a deal at any level, and or figure out a way to work in the industry and get paid. Like, whether you're working for a broker or a lender or a property manager, like those are very legit ways of learning the space and establishing expertise in the space without having the risk of doing deals on your shoulders. And you're going to avoid a whole lot of mistakes that way. So in a way, what you're doing is like, you've got like new mentors that are going to show you the way. Yeah. That's awesome. George, this has been awesome. I know you've got family stuff and camp stuff, and I'm jealous. It's a Monday. I wish I was going camping, but everybody, everybody knows me well, knows that that's my jam. But it's always good to visit with you. You've got a really kind of fascinating way of thinking, in my opinion, and you're very well spoken. And you share a lot of really valuable things and make them easy to understand. So, George, what's the best way for listeners to reach out to you and get in touch?
So if you want to invest with me passively, best way to do that, George, at horizonmultifamily.com. If you want to learn more, come find me on LinkedIn. You can follow me or send me a message. Whether you're interested in learning how to invest actively or passively, that's a great way to reach out to me. And just whatever you do, I do love to meet new people. I love to help wherever I can. So don't be shy.
Yeah. And everybody check out George's podcast, The Foundry, where leaders are forged daily. Did I get that right? Yes. Woo. The Foundry, FOUNDRY.
ERY, actually. So
sorry,
it was a little play on words, like founder with a Y.
Okay, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I love that. Or you could just search George's name, George Roberts, and you'll find it that way too on any podcast platform. It's well worth checking out. Highly recommend it. So, George, thank you. I've got a ton of gratitude for you coming on the show, spending some time with us on a Monday on a very, very valuable family day for you. And, we're always in touch, but, let us know how we can be helpful to you in any way. And, I know the listeners are also grateful for everything that, they've learned from you in this episode and otherwise. So thanks, dude.
Well, amazing to spend some time with you, Tate. Thank you for having me back on your show.
You bet. It's always a pleasure. So, let's see, where will I see you next? Are you going to?
Well, how about Multifamily Mastery 5?
Oh, yeah.
To Orlando?
Absolutely. That's a do not miss.
Absolutely. Yes. You will see me there. And I've got another one in between, Real Wealth Solutions. That'll be in October in East Tennessee. So you can look that up. Real Wealth Solutions Experience. Those are my next two.
Awesome. Yeah. Jake and Gino's Money Mastery 5 is really the first national conference that I recommend, next to Best Ever Conference, that everybody goes. And I don't have any affiliation with these.
Right.
It just, for what it's worth, my opinion is that these are absolute game changers. George and I wouldn't know each other if it wasn't for this. And this is a valuable relationship to both of us. And look, there's 800 people at those events, the Jake and Gino event, and tremendous speakers. Like, if you want to level up fast, put yourself in one of those rooms and look around and look at the people that are doing what you want to be doing. Right. And just by being in that space, it'll shift your mindset, in my opinion. So, George, thanks a ton. Go have a great day with all the rest of your stuff. And we'll be in touch, I'm sure, here real soon.
Great stuff, Tate. Great to see you.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, listeners, for listening to another episode of the Apartment Gurus. We're doing 2 a week now. So we'll see you in a couple days, hear you in a couple days on the next episode of the Apartment Gurus. Take care, everybody.
This has been the Apartment Gurus with Tate Siemer. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. To contact Tate, Go to www.investwithgreenlight.com for access to his investor portal and Calendly link. He loves to hear from you and thanks you for being a valued listener. Just a reminder that you are the guru. See you on the next episode of The Apartment Gurus.